This video is sponsored by Incogni, but more on that later.
In the summer of 2025, just a few months ago, Suzuki released a new model inspired by the street races of the 1970s and 1980s. Suzuki based this bike on their award-winning naked motorcycle, and they named it the Timeless Titan. Yet nobody seems to have noticed. And I think I know why. I give you the Suzuki Timeless Titan, otherwise known as the Suzuki GSX-8TT. So what's the problem? I hear you asking down your screens. This is a sub-zero cool looking bike with incredible road presence, and it's a Suzuki. So what can possibly be the issue with a bike like this? Why has no one noticed this? The first issue comes from Suzuki's very own competition. The problem is, when this bike came out just a few months ago, it was up against the Suzuki GSX-8S. This is Suzuki's very own Naked Motorcycle of the Year 2023. And the problem for this bike is, those two bikes, this and the GSX-8, are based on the exact same platform, the same frame, the same engine, same suspension, same dash, almost the same everything, other than the fact this is in a more handsome suit. And the problem arises from the fact that the GSX-8S is £8,300. So, customers have to stomach forking out £1,700 more for the exact same bike, just in a smarter suit. What was more apparent at the time in the summer, that really was one of the nails in the coffin for the initial launch of this bike, the GSX-8S was on sale over the summer at £7,500. And that means that this was £2,500 more expensive than, certainly internally and mechanically, an identical bike. But here's my question, and it's a very genuine one. Has the Suzuki GSX-8TT been given an unjustly hostile welcome into the world? This video is sponsored by Incogni. Incogni is a highly useful tool that removes your personal data from unwanted places around the internet, whether that's websites, directories, and people search engines. Data farming is huge business. From 2023 to 2024, data breaches skyrocketed 211%, and that's why it's even more important than it's ever been to protect our online data. A real-world situation about how people taking your data and your data getting into wrong hands can affect you personally happened to me about a year and a half ago. I was getting home, opened up my postbox, and someone had opened a bank account in my name because there was a brand new debit card for a brand new bank account that I had no idea about. So if these criminals would have got to my postbox before I got home, who knows what they could have ended up doing. Incogni also have a custom removals tool whereby if you find your data on a website, you can send a link of that website to Incogni and they will go about getting all of your details off that website. Since I started using Incogni in April 2025, I often go onto the Incogni website to check exactly what's been going on. You can see the list of websites Incogni have got your data off, and it's quite scary. I've had 113 data removal requests from Incogni. They've successfully removed 105 of those, and 8 are still pending. So it just shows how prevalent this data farming is and the spreading of your data online. Incogni are also verified independently by Deloitte, so you know you're in good hands. So to take your personal data back with Incogni, you can use code Freddie at checkout and click on the link in the written description. That's incogni.com/Freddie. So a pound under £10,000, 800cc, 82 horsepower, 203 kilos with 90% of fuel. And this uses the exact same engine in the adventure bike, the Suzuki v-strom, and also the sports bike, the Suzuki GSX-8R. So it's a very durable, dependable, reliable engine that's flexible enough to be in a lot of different models. This is not going to have any issues at all. It's got an aluminium swing arm on the back. It's got a 16.5 litre fuel tank, and it looks absolutely sensational. I saw this for the first time at the Copdock Bike Show in the autumn, and I was immediately drawn to it. I knew nothing about the bike. I had no idea the bike had arrived, and I remember chatting with my friend Danny at the show, and I said to him, what the hell is that bike? It's got presence, the kind of presence where you notice it across a crowded room. In this case, across a crowded field of bikes. It just stood out to me immediately as a bike that is potentially very, very special. Suzuki have worked really hard on the ergonomics for one. Take a look at that. I'm 6'1", and it's perfect. It is such a natural position. It's got a real feeling of one of those classic old school bruiser Suzukis, the likes of the Suzuki Bandit 600 and 1200, and also the much bigger Suzuki GSX-1400. It's raw, it's rugged, it's well put together. It just feels like a good, tough bike. And on top of that, it's so approachable. This is the first thing that I noticed over and above the exceptionally good looks of this bike. My knees are at a very pleasant angle here. It's so easy to put my feet down. The balance of the bike and the weight distribution is so low that there's no level of intimidation here. I was so impressed with this that last night I sat Monica on the bike. Monica's 5'4", about 164 centimeters, I think, and she could get her feet down, and she was immediately amazed at how manageable a brute of a bike like this can be for slow speed maneuvering and just pushing it around the garage. It's a very, very nice place to be that takes no time at all to feel like you're completely at home. Let's take a closer look at this, front to back. First off, this classic vintage 1970s headlamp cowl. This is a work of art, really exceptionally good looking front fairing here. You can see that beautiful circular front headlamp there with that Suzuki logo. Smoked plastic wind protector here. And you can see all the beautiful exposed bolts here. It's got a really nice, almost industrial feel, but it's such an elegant thing at the same time. Black forks, small LED indicators, these lovely, lovely red wheels with Nissin brakes. GSX-8 on the side there, and this is really nice. This is a proper badge here with really nice, almost brushed aluminium style detailing. At the bottom you've got the cowl, and you've got that very well proven 800cc engine that you're going to recognize in a lot of other models from Suzuki. At the bottom, very well hidden and styled exhaust. All of it is right at the bottom, just with this nice finish here with two louvers just before the end pipe. Well styled again, red rear wheel with that aluminium swing arm. Lovely looking rear section here with this writing that just sticks out a little bit from the rest of the paintwork. And this nice bit of styling here leading to that exposed frame with beautiful welds. Again, Suzuki have been very careful to really up their game with the welds and the level of the paint finish. And it really shows. Coming around to the back, and quickly over to this side. One other thing that really strikes me, the quality of everything here. It's all beautifully done. Side of the engine there with quick shifter. And let's take a look at this 5-inch TFT display here. So, nice traditional key with a beautiful Suzuki logo that pops up. This is a really nicely thought out dash, very good quality, and everything's well situated so you can see everything clearly. Nothing's obtrusive and in your face from a tech point of view, and it doesn't take away from the riding experience. So here, if I press the mode button, you'll see that goes onto the TC, the traction control. 3 different settings, 1, 2 and 3. I think 1 is the most hardcore, I with the least amount of help, 2 middle, and 3 the most intrusive of those levels. Press M again and you'll notice it highlights this. Here I've got A, B and C. This is for the rider modes. A is active, and that is the most aggressive, where they let you just get on with it and do your own thing. B is basic, where, for example, you're maybe commuting to work or doing something like that. You don't need to be as aggressive. And C is comfort. That's if there's rain and, for example, if you're riding 2-up. And that is all extremely easy to navigate. It's a very, very well laid out screen, that. The exhaust note. Let's see what this sounds like. Nice. It's hard to get crazily carried away with exhausts in 2025, but that is a perfectly nice sounding exhaust. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my little bag there of party tricks. While I'm getting out what I need to get out from that bag, soak in the side profile, soak in the looks of this bike. Just remember this, okay? What, you may ask, am I doing with a black cloth down a country lane? So often now, with all the regulations, etc., motorbike companies have to conform with the regulations, the legislation in each country. In the UK, and I'm sure this is the same worldwide, you have to have this huge element out here because the number plate has to come out further than the rear tyre. On top of that, in the UK, we have to have a ludicrously big number plate. But all bike manufacturers know that no one keeps something like this on because it destroys the look of the back of the bike. So Suzuki have cleverly had or put 4 screws underneath here so you can easily take this off, put on your very own tail tidy and have a small number plate that just comes out like this. Look at how much better the bike looks if I put this cloth over the side of it. That transforms it. You can now see how aggressively this has been chopped almost halfway down the rear tyre. And it transforms the look of the bike. I was blown away when I was messing around in the garage yesterday and I saw the difference that makes. So when you look at this bike, already an excellent bike, but then you have to take into account the fact that you can immediately take off this ugly thing and put on your own tail tidy and look at the transformative effect it has on the aesthetics of the bike. Blown away. I knew the first time I saw this bike in the summer of this year, I knew it was something special. And then yesterday when I sat on it for the first time, any bike that's had ergonomics so exquisitely considered as this bike, I thought, yeah, we really are onto something here that potentially could be very, very good. And yesterday evening, the first 300 meters, that's all I needed to know. This bike, this is the real deal. This bike's a perfect demonstration as to the importance of balance and also the importance of using what you've got, because Suzuki have used the frame, the engine, the TFT display, other bits and pieces from bikes ranging from adventure bikes all the way to sports bikes within Suzuki's lineup. But they've so perfectly balanced it into this package, they've turned it into a formidable street machine. Don't let the fact that this engine is only 82 horsepower put you off. This feels like a seriously rapid machine. And I don't care what your budget is, you're not going to be leaving even a mediocre rider on this bike. Because it's not just the power of this bike, it's the overall balance of everything. It feels like an extension of your body. You never have to think about anything. The weight of the clutch is just right. The gear change is sublime. The quick shifter I was using without even thinking about it. The brakes, the balance, the control, the technology, the fact that it's never too intrusive and you can just change it to suit the situations just by coming off the throttle. It all works, it's all to hand. It's all been so perfectly thought out with the ingredients that Suzuki have. So, it rides superbly. The quality is excellent. Why aren't people getting more excited about this bike? Now we get to point 2 as to why I think the timeless Titan hasn't been the immediate sales success that possibly it deserves to be. That comes from the kind of bikes that the GSX-8TT is being compared to. Let's start with the first one here. The first is the Triumph Speed Twin 900. This is a 900cc bike from Triumph with 64 horsepower. It's an excellent bike and it's £600 cheaper than the Suzuki. So people's initial reaction here is, well, it's a Triumph. It's a premium brand and it's £600 cheaper than Suzuki and it's 100cc bigger engine capacity. Therefore the Suzuki, it must be overpriced if it's so much more than the Triumph. But no, this isn't the case. Riding them both, and I have done now, both the Triumph and the Suzuki is a clearly more accomplished machine. It may be 100cc less, but that extra 16 horsepower from the Suzuki puts it into the category above the Triumph. So is the Suzuki £600 better than the Triumph? Absolutely, 100%. The next important comparison is with Kawasaki. See, most people, when they consider this Suzuki, they compare it to the Kawasaki Z650 RS at £7,900 with 67 horsepower. And the reason this is the natural bike to compare it to is because the horsepower figures are quite similar. 67 horsepower compared to 82 horsepower with the Suzuki. But I've ridden both the Z650 RS and of course now the Suzuki. And the Suzuki needs to be compared much closer to the Z900 RS, the bigger brother. Don't let those horsepower figures fool you. So £7,900 compared to the 10k for the Suzuki. That sounds like a big difference, £2,000. But again, the Suzuki is clearly a much higher level above the Z650 RS. So then when we compare it to the Z900 RS at £11,500, yeah, that makes sense. The £1,500 between the Z900 RS and this Suzuki, it all starts to make sense. I could say the same with the Yamaha XSR 700, XSR 900 as well. I could go on, but actually when you look at this Suzuki compared to the competition, I actually think it's perfectly reasonably priced. On top of all of this, this is highly impressive. Suzuki have just started doing a 10-year warranty. I remember in car terms, it must be about 10 years ago, Kia came out with an 8-year warranty and everyone was freaking out and we were all thinking, motorbike brands are just getting left behind here. Suzuki have upped the game, not just for motorbikes, but for vehicles in general. Yes, you may have to go and get your Suzuki serviced by Suzuki to honour that 10-year warranty, but it's a statement of intent. It's like having a watch with a 50-metre dive rating. You're never going to dive 50 metres, but it's just nice knowing that you've got a watch that's been made in such a way that the company can vouch for its potential. And it's exactly the same with Suzuki. It's a show of confidence. Suzuki have made a product they're so confident with. So long as you get it serviced at Suzuki, 10-year warranty. That just gives you such a feeling of confidence. And every time you ride it, having that warranty in your mind and also knowing that this engine is so proven across so many platforms, peace of mind. I truly believe this is a bike that's simply been misunderstood initially, but its time will come. I don't know if the GSX-8TT name is bold enough. I think Suzuki should simply call this the Timeless Titan. This is a bike fully deserving of a name like this, and I promise you, this is also a bike fully deserving of both your respect and your attention. This is a phenomenal machine.
Thanks to Incogni for sponsoring the video. Remember, you can use code Freddie and go to incogni.com/Freddie for that 60% off your first year plan.